I think that scheduling is just one of those fundamental things that we all recognize the value and the importance of scheduling. Other than contract, in understanding contractual terms, solid schedule is fundamental for project controls and project success.
You say top down to the leadership team was like, we need to get more training and upskill our team.
Absolutely.
We want to bring this training in-house.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
And so that message came from the top down, and then we earnestly went to work in developing these training programs, the slides, and then also those exercises and just the messaging. I would say that training and development is just fundamental to a successful career, a happy career. And we make it a point at PCL that training is just such a key part of our culture. Finding those right mentors, those right teachers is key.
Hi folks, a quick one before we dive into this week's episode. Our book, The Critical Path Career, How to Advance in Construction Planning and Scheduling, is out now, and you can order it on Amazon. We'll include a link below. This is a great way to show support for the Beyond Deadlines podcast, and Greg and I have worked extremely hard taking everything we know in our 30 years of experience, plus everything we've picked up from shooting this podcast, and we've tried to pack it into an information-dense book that you can use right away. In the book, we have specific strategies on how to get a raise, how to get a promotion, and find a new job. We include 26 of the best interview questions that we have come across, in addition to 34 specific impact ideas that you can go use on your projects today. We want to thank everyone who's shown us support so far and enjoy this week's episode. Welcome to the Beyond Deadlines podcast, where we tackle challenges that planning and schedule leaders come across on a day-to-day basis. We're here live at the Advancing Construction Scheduling Conference, and we have a special guest with us today. My name is Micah Piippo. I'm a planning and scheduling manager for Intel.
I'm Alan Rosini, scheduling manager for PCL Construction.
Today, Alan is on the hot seat, and boy, is it going to get warm, because he's been tasked with launching a schedule training and mentorship program for a large-scale GC. Let's say they have about 20 schedulers, all different sorts and sizes and positions, but they've never provided any training whatsoever outside of the outside stuff you pay for. So you've been tasked to launch that program. How do you do it?
That's a good question. First thing we need to do is understand where our schedulers are in their development. The training to those needs. I know at PCL, we have developed a Schedule 101 course, a Schedule 201 course, and we're actually in the throes of beginning a Schedule 301 course.
We're going to dive into each of those courses, I'm guessing. But let's start out with, so how would you figure out skill level? Would it be a survey? Would you talk to people? I mean, it's a pretty large number of schedulers we have in 20. How are you going to kind of start ranking capabilities, needs, all that sort of stuff?
Yes, I think the best way to do that is knowing how, their experience, what they've experienced in their careers. You do have to do a little over-shoulder review, just kind of understand where they're at. And their seniority, I think, tells a lot. And so, like 101, that's typically right out of college, or someone who may want to get into the scheduling stream, where we get to the basics. Understanding those basics and ensure that they have those skills and then build that foundation upwards.
Well, I mean, that makes total sense to me. And then, walking through this, take yourself out of PCL for a second. You don't have your Schedule 101, 102, 103 set up for you. You have to create that. How are you going about doing it? Does it make sense to start at the 101 or does it start at the 201? Are you flying everybody in for these initial trainings? Kind of just getting kind of those nitty-gritty tactics.
Yeah, so it would be great to get them away from the job site, right? There's so many distractions at the job site. So we find that, yes, we do bring them into our office, bring them into an office setting, have that time where they turn off their phones, dial out of that project, and then listen to the instruction. Typically, I like to have an exercise make
I was going to ask you about that. I was
Yes.
going to say, is it just all PowerPoint presentations? Or are you getting hands-on stuff? Like, what are you doing?
Absolutely. That is, I think, fundamental. You need them to engage and get involved and get their hands dirty, so to speak.
So what's an example of one of your exercises that you would run? Do you like have them create a schedule in P6 with kind of you watching? Is it you making them? Please don't tell me you're doing this. Making them draw out the calculation for the float path.
Well, no, we don't do that.
Okay.
We don't do that. We, for one example, is we do a sample project in WBS breakout. So I think that is one. I think that's the most critical part of creating effective schedule is having a really good WBS breakout. So I would like to
Remember that, folks. Remember that. A great WBS will make
Yes.
your schedule better.
yes, you'll
Sorry, continue.
yes, that's where an effective plan to communicate with your subtrades, your owners, all the stakeholders on a project begins at that breakout of the WBS. And so we'll do an exercise where I will show what a good WBS looks like. And then we will have the students do that. And then also after they're done with it, be able to communicate and what drove their decisions to break out, this room and this level, how they break those things down, be able to discuss their logic behind that and be able to present it to the class.
Oftentimes, understanding that logic of how they broke out the WBS is more important than the actual output of WBS, because there's so many things in construction where, it's you can do this or you can do that.
Exactly.
And yeah, maybe breaking out every single room for your WBS makes sense. Maybe rolling them up makes sense. But having the thought process of why you're doing that is huge. And doing that in the classroom setting is just probably super helpful for those students.
It is. And I would say that you want to manage those bite-sized pieces. There's a flow and a timing, and you want to group those activities that are interdependent on one another and have that flow and sequence. So it's an easy story to sell.
What are some of the things you see most people tripping up or just thinking about it in the 101 class? Is it just the complete fire hose from P6, all the buttons and the clicking? Is that what they're tripping up over? Is it more like the philosophy behind planning and scheduling? What are the things that people really prevent them from then going to the 201 basically?
Well, I think that experience really matters. Having that time in the field, and understanding the ebbs and flows of a real life project is really hard to mimic in any sort of training setting. But I think that experience is key to understanding that they've grasped those fundamental concepts of 201, before they move to that 201 level of training.
So talk to me about how does 201 then different from 101? And you're flying around Primavera P6, you're learning the buttons, you're kind of learning the WBSs, some of the, only use finish to starts, no negative lags. That'll be a whole nother episode. Alan has some views on negative lags.
It's like, yeah.
What is the kind of difference what's the next set of learnings they're getting out of a 201 course?
So at 201, I think in both courses, we want to push the cradle to grave concept of scheduling. So we will go from, understanding the contract and the specifications and stressing that all the way to, getting metrics at the end, understanding, productivities and production rates and all those sorts of things. So we want to cover all those topics in both courses. But in 201, we dive a little deeper. So in 201, we're looking, that analysis of the longest path, the critical path. And I argue in 201, we should be able to predict what a longest path or critical path would look like prior to.
You've built a couple of the jobs, it's going to be structure, electrical, going this way and that way. And so
Exactly.
instead of building to figure it out, you're kind of anticipating how that will shake out. And if it doesn't, you got to stick and move.
That's right. It's a validation process. And I like that exercise of, again, clearly in 201, we even dive deeper in the WBS breakout, understanding how a job is sliced and diced. We should be able to predict even the activities that are within a WBS, what will that longest path look like?
That's super interesting. So taking a step back, instead of like the content of 101 and 201, thinking of this as you're now implementing this as at a company, how do you sell this to management of this training course? How do you kind of build like culturally, this is what we're going to do, and get that, buy-in from leadership?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that at PCL, we recognized that we needed to do better. And this was through, upper management understanding of jobs that didn't go so well, where it could clearly be seen schedule was an issue. And so at least at PCL, this came from the top down. And we as schedulers were waiting for this opportunity because we
When you
certainly...
say top down, to the leadership team was like, we need to get more training and upskill our team.
Absolutely.
We want to bring this training in-house. Go.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
And so that message came from the top down. And then we earnestly went to work in developing these training programs, the slides, and then also those exercises and just the messaging.
That's really cool. Let's just flip it a little bit. Since you're on the hot seat, we'll make it a little warm for you. If you didn't have that leadership component, how do you think you would get them to buy into, supporting this training, funding it, offering the time and space for it?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that, again, you just have to demonstrate to your leadership the need. And I think that scheduling is just one of those fundamental things that we all recognize the value and the importance of scheduling. Other than contract, in understanding contractual terms, solid schedule is fundamental for project controls and project success.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So let's talk a little bit about 301 now. This seems interesting. Now, if you don't have the course built, what sort of things are now you looking at in the 301 bucket to really go next level to kind of, take that training? What sort of things are packed into there?
Yeah, so the 301 is going to be focused on, construction manager level, project executive level, really understanding claims management, claims avoidance, those sorts of higher level topics that are directed to, project leaders.
When you say construction manager related, are you talking, bringing them some data and insights that they can understand and use to effectively manage their job? Is that kind of what the training is going to help with? Is that where you're going with that?
That's right. Yes.
That is a big skill that, it's one thing to print off a 25-page PDF and hand it to a project manager. It's another one to start talking about strategic shifts in the project for delivery. That seems like a really interesting training.
That's right. It will be, again, the key is the project. We don't want to get in the claim situation.
Yeah.
And so we need our teams to know if there are those strategic, changes being made, that they're done in a manner that will protect us and also be fair to an owner or to a sub-trade. We have to recognize that, those partners have to be included in that process, and that strategic thinking involves them for sure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Wow. That is 101, 201, 301, loving it all. As we close this one out, any final thoughts you want to leave the crowd with? Do you want to do your negative lag rant? I'm just kidding. Please don't do that. But is there anything that you would give, any thoughts or recommendations, encouragement for people working through either of those buckets, just to kind of close out our episode?
I would say that, training and development is just fundamental to a successful career, a happy career. And we make it a point at PCL that training is just such a key part of our culture. And then finding those right mentors, those right teachers is key. I think that people tend to gravitate to, people that have passion and drive and love sharing, and those that are team players. Again, at PCL, we believe that is just a fundamental thing for our development of our people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Alan, thank you so much for joining us today. Folks, get some training, get trained up, step up your skills, improve your Primavera P6 planning and scheduling. And for us from Beyond Deadlines, we'll see you on the next one.